There's a man kneeling at the foot of a bed. The room is silent, yet screaming. Behind him, a woman lies motionless, facing away. She is nude, but there is no intimacy here, just distance, just coldness. In the mirror, his reflection doesn't match his posture. It shows his head in his hands, breaking, as if the glass can see the truth he's trying to hide. His real self, the part he's buried beneath desire, performance, and shame. This is not about sex. This is about emptiness. He had what everyone said he should want. He chased the thrill, the validation, the high of being wanted. He told himself he was free, untamed, uncommitted, in control. But if he's so free, why does he feel like he's suffocating? Nietzsche once wrote, "The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will be lonely often and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself." The worst prison is the one you can't see. The one built from pleasure, comfort, and approval. A cage with no bars because it's built inside your mind. That's what Nietzsche warned us about. And that's where he is now. This man is you. Not literally, but emotionally, existentially. He is every moment you've woken up and thought, why do I feel so lost? Even when I have what I wanted. Because the chase for lust is often a mask, hiding a deeper hunger we're too afraid to name. And the longer we wear that mask, the less we remember who we were before it. You're not watching this video to be entertained. You're watching because a part of you already knows. Something's not right. You've tasted the high. But the crash keeps getting louder. This is where the story begins. Not with a scandal or a secret, but with a question. What if the thing you thought was setting you free has actually been quietly destroying you? Let's open the door Nietzsche warned us about. Let's step into the cage so we can finally learn how to leave it. You didn't stumble into the cage. You walked into it, smiling, because they told you it was freedom. Freedom to chase what you want. Freedom to follow desire without guilt. Freedom to never feel tied down, never feel bored, never feel anything too real. But here's the catch. When everything becomes about chasing pleasure, nothing feels pleasurable anymore. That's how the trap works. It doesn't lock you up with shame or force. It seduces you with choice. It flatters your ego. It whispers, this is who you really are. You deserve this. You're not like the others. And at first it feels true. Late night texts, half-naked strangers on screens, quick thrills in hotel rooms, or just the thrill of being seen, wanted, used. No promises, no responsibility. Just the electric hum of temporary highs. You call it freedom. But deep down, your soul knows it's not. Because if this was freedom, why do you feel emptier every time? You see, Nietzsche wasn't warning us about lust in the moral sense. He was warning us about false gods, about the illusions we worship to avoid confronting our own pain. When we don't know who we are, when we haven't made peace with our inner wounds, we seek out a substitute. Lust becomes that substitute. Not for love, but for identity, for power, for self-worth. And that's when the trap tightens. Because the more you feed on it, the hungrier you become. And the more you chase, the more it costs you. Time, focus, dignity, depth. Until one day, you wake up next to someone, or maybe just your own reflection, and you realize you've given everything, and you still feel like nothing. That's not freedom. That's a leash made of dopamine and denial. And the cruelest part? The cage is invisible. So you keep telling yourself you're free, while the bars grow stronger with every impulsive choice, every empty night, every lie you tell yourself to avoid feeling the truth. This is the lie that feels like freedom. And millions of people are living inside it right now, pretending they're not lost because they're surrounded by pleasure. But Nietzsche had a different vision. Not of a man who avoids pain, but of a man who confronts it and becomes whole. Sometimes, it makes the prison feel even more unbearable. It begins so quietly. A glance, a fantasy, a thought you don't push away. Desire whispers, not with force, but familiarity. It doesn't feel like danger. It feels like you. That's what makes it so powerful. Because desire, when left unchecked, doesn't just pull you towards something. It pulls you away from yourself. At first, it seems harmless, a small indulgence, a private habit, a secret flirtation. No one knows. No one gets hurt. You still feel in control. But slowly, something shifts. You stop choosing desire and start needing it. You start organizing your life around the next hit of attention, the next forbidden moment, the next feeling that reminds you you're still alive. It becomes your reward system, your coping mechanism, your way of escaping the silence. And now, desire isn't just something you have, it's something you serve. Nietzsche saw it clearly. That man's greatest suffering doesn't come from his instincts, but from becoming enslaved by them. When the body rules the soul, we mistake craving for truth. We think, because I want it, it must mean something. But not all wanting is sacred. Some wants are just wounds trying to speak. Desire becomes a trap the moment it no longer lifts you, but chains you to patterns you're too ashamed to confront. The moment lust stops being about connection and becomes a distraction from pain, that's when it starts to eat you. Not violently, slowly, quietly, like a beautiful predator that makes you believe you're the one in control, right until the moment you're not. And by the time you realize it, you're already building a life around the very thing that's hollowing you out. You look successful. You sound confident. You post curated moments to prove you're winning. But inside, you're starving. Because your deepest hunger was never for sex. It was never for her, or him, or them. It was for something deeper, something sacred, something real. In chasing shadow after shadow, you start forgetting what that even is. This is how desire becomes the cage. It doesn't need walls or rules or punishments. It just needs you to keep mistaking hunger for home. And as you kneel at the edge of the bed, looking at the body you once thought could save you, the real horror sets in. You're not trapped by her. You're trapped by what you thought she'd fix. You thought it was her body, her silence, her power to make you feel wanted, then unwanted. You told yourself she was the reason for your emptiness, your obsession, your unraveling. But she isn't the prison. She's just the mirror. A mirror reflecting everything you refuse to face inside yourself. Your longing to be seen, your fear of being unloved, your hunger for control in a world that makes you feel small. She lies in the bed, untouched, unmoved, facing away. And yet somehow, she has taken your power. Not because she wanted to, but because you gave it to her, piece by piece, in the hope that she'd make you whole. That's the tragedy. You built the cage. She just reminded you it was there. Nietzsche didn't warn us about women, or lust, or sex. He warned us about illusion, about how easily we mistake comfort for connection, performance for passion, possession for purpose. The woman in the bed isn't your captor. She's your symptom. She represents every hope you projected onto someone else to avoid healing yourself. Every time you thought this one would be different, every time you used love as anesthesia. You thought intimacy would save you. But you were never seeking intimacy. You were seeking escape from yourself, from the voice that says you're not enough, from the ache of ordinary life. And when the dopamine fades, when the body is no longer new, when the quiet returns, so does the truth. She was never your way out. You handed her the blueprint of your prison and begged her to tear it down. But healing doesn't come from being chosen by someone else. It comes from choosing not to abandon yourself. The real prison was never her rejection, her distance, her indifference. It was the illusion that someone else could fix what you won't even name. And that illusion? It's the most seductive cage of all. The illusion becomes dangerous, not because it's painful, but because it's comforting. That's what Nietzsche was really warning us about. Not the agony of suffering, but the seduction of ease, the soft trap, the padded cell lined with just enough pleasure to keep you still, and just enough pain to keep you wanting more. The real prison isn't built from chains. It's built from routines. The job you hate, but won't leave. The relationship that numbs you, but feels safer than being alone. The distractions you call joy, scrolling, consuming, sedating yourself with whatever keeps the silence away. And the worst part? It doesn't feel like a prison. It feels like life. Nietzsche believed that the greatest threat to the human spirit wasn't suffering, but comfort. The kind that dulls your edges, numbs your instincts, and slowly replaces your will with obedience. Not obedience to a tyrant, obedience to mediocrity. You stop asking why you're here. You stop listening to the ache in your chest. You stop wondering what could be different, because difference might hurt. So you stay. You smile. You nod. You scroll. You sleep. And the cage tightens. This is the horror Nietzsche saw, that we would become so good at surviving that we'd forget how to live. Because real living demands risk. It demands uncertainty, failure, heartbreak, solitude. It demands you walk away from the comfort that's killing your spirit. And not everyone is willing to do that. Many would rather sit in the warmth of their padded cell than feel the cold wind of freedom. They would rather ache in private than bleed in pursuit of something real. They would rather dream of escape than break the cage. And the tragedy is, most of them will never even realize they're trapped. Because comfort is quiet. It doesn't scream like pain. It whispers, "Stay here. It's not that bad. At least you're not alone." That voice isn't soothing you. It's sedating you. But sometimes, the silence breaks. Not from the outside, not from a savior, or a scream, or a sudden disaster. It shatters from within. A moment. That's all it takes. A glance in the mirror that lasts 1 second too long. A flicker of shame. A quiet voice that finally asks, "What am I doing here?" That's when the first crack appears. The man kneeling at the foot of the bed no longer sees the woman. He sees himself, small, hollowed, a stranger in his own body. And in the reflection, he sees what he's become. Not evil, not broken, just lost, tamed by his comforts, disconnected from anything that once felt sacred. The mirror doesn't lie. It doesn't offer solutions. It simply reflects, honestly, mercilessly. And in that brutal honesty, something stirs. Awareness. Not yet action. Not yet freedom. But awareness is the beginning of every escape. Because once you see the cage, you can't unsee it. Once you know you've been sedated, you start to feel the hunger again. The hunger for meaning, for risk, for your own life. Nietzsche didn't offer easy answers. He didn't believe in saviors. He believed in becoming. in seeing yourself fully, painfully, and refusing to look away. Because awareness burns. It strips your justifications bare. It exposes the bargains you've made with fear. It demands that you stop blaming the world, or women, or fate, and instead take responsibility for the bars you built. But that pain, it's sacred. It means you're alive. And more than that, it means you still want to be. The mirror, once broken, won't return to silence. You'll see fragments of yourself everywhere. In your habits, your conversations, your loneliness, each one whispering, "This isn't it. This isn't who you are. This isn't where your story ends." It's disorienting at first. You'll want to crawl back into the numbness, but the illusion no longer fits. And the silence, once a comfort, has turned into a scream. You don't escape by picking a lock. There is no key, no sudden revelation, no savior knocking at your cell to say it's time to go. Because the door was never locked. It was simply closed. And you, convinced you belonged inside, never thought to push. That's the cruel truth of this prison. It needs no chains. It thrives on your forgetfulness, your silence, your willingness to trade discomfort for convenience, freedom for fantasy. But now, you're awake. And even if your hands still tremble, they're your hands again. The door stands there, quiet, familiar. You've seen it before, many times, just beyond your rituals, your scrolling, your shame. But you turned away. It asked too much. It required a death of the self you carefully constructed. That's why most never walk through. Because stepping outside means letting the old version of you die. The version that needed validation from strangers. The version that chased desire but feared intimacy. The version that mistook control for connection. Nietzsche didn't just warn us about invisible prisons. He dared us to walk out of them and into the wilderness of becoming. Out there, beyond the door, is nothing certain. There's no script, no guaranteed affection, no algorithm to follow. Just the rawness of being, hungry, vulnerable, free. And yet, that's where your soul remembers how to breathe. The man at the foot of the bed doesn't need to be saved. He needs to stand, not with answers, but with awareness, with grief, with a decision. Because the most dangerous part of this prison isn't the illusion that you're trapped. It's the belief that you deserve to be. But you don't. You deserve a life that belongs to you. One forged not by lust or fear, but by truth. That kind of life costs everything you thought you were, but it gives you back everything you forgot you could be. So don't wait for the key. Reach for the handle and walk.